Hola, buenas. Okay, we are going to do capítulo 3.2, parte 1. First off, I have flashcards for you on Blackboard. You're going to fill these notes out, and then you're going to bring them to class the next time I see you, and we will grade them at the beginning of class. So make sure that you have them finished by the time you get there, before you get there. ¿Qué haces? Means what do you do? And we're going to use all of the verbs that we've learned to say what we do. ¿Qué haces? I read. I go to school. I eat lunch. I eat dinner. And then we're going to say when we do these things. Por la mañana is in the morning or AM. Por la tarde, in the afternoon or PM. And por la noche, at night, in the evening, PM. So we ask people, ¿qué haces? What do you do? We answer with all of the verbs that we've learned: to play sports, to play video games, to play the piano, to talk, to read, to write, to study. And then we can tell them when we do it. Next, we're going to say our preferences about what it is that we're doing. Prefiero means I prefer. So I prefer to study. I don't prefer to take tests. Prefiero estudiar. No prefiero tomar exámenes. What if somebody asks you, do you play baseball? And you want to just say, nope, I don't do it. Then you would say, no lo hago. Remember that the H is silent. And then we've learned me gusta and no me gusta before. Me gusta means I like. Write that down. I don't have space to write it on mine. And no me gusta means I don't like. So we've learned a lot of verbs that you should be working on memorizing. Right now, you guys have learned about 60 verbs, so you should know all those. So we're going to write down a few more. Las actividades para escribir. So you just write this right next to it. Asistir a clase means to attend class. Cenar con mi familia means to eat dinner with my family. Comer en el comedor means to eat in, and then el comedor could be the dining hall, the dining room. In a house, it's the dining room, but here at the university, it would be the dining hall. 4. Correr en el parque. To run in the park. 5. Desayunar. To eat breakfast. You don't have to say, I eat breakfast. You just say, desayuno. I eat breakfast. Estudiar en la biblioteca is to study in the library. Escribir emails is to write emails. Leer el periódico is to read the newspaper. I think that periódico is a new word for us. We know libros, we know novelas, we know diccionarios. Now we're learning periódicos. Mirar la televisión. Remember that V is pronounced like a B. Televisión. It's to watch TV. And then finally, jugar basketball is to play basketball. Or jugar los videojuegos. Once again, that V is a B sound. Los videojuegos. To play video games. Okay, if somebody says, ¿qué juegas? They're asking, Now we already know you can answer with los videojuegos. Now we're going to learn some sports. Okay, so you don't have to write these in English, just write them in Spanish because I think it's pretty obvious what they are. So here's how to pronounce them. Los deportes. El básquetbol. El béisbol. El voleibol. El golf. El tenis. And then we need to add two more. El fútbol. And el fútbol americano does not have a capitalized A. Would be what we would call football. Okay. This next one. ¿Qué tocas? They're asking, what do you play? But they're only asking, is it instruments or music? So just to give you a couple common instruments, we have el piano, el violín, la guitarra, etc. Okay, now what you need to do is you need to decide if you're going to use estar, ir, ser, or tener. You should already know the conjugations for those. If not, go back to your notes. So first you're going to decide which verb you need. Then, once you know which verb you need, you're going to conjugate it. For example, if you need estar, you're going to decide, do you need estoy, estás, está, estamos, están. If you decide that the sentence needs ser, then you need to decide if the correct form is soy, eres, es, somos, son. So, for example, the first one, los españoles blank de Asia. Okay, so does it make sense to say estar, that they are in Asia? Not really. Does it make sense to say that they go from Asia? Not really. Does it make sense to say that they are from Asia? That sentence makes sense. Does it make sense to say they have from Asia? No. So we know that we're using ser. Now, if we go back to our notes, ser can be soy, eres, es, somos, and son. Now we're talking about Spanish people, Spaniards. So that means they, right? The Spanish people are they. So the form that we're going to pick is son. We're going to write it right here. And then we're going to circle cierto o falso. Are Spanish people from Asia? You decide. That's what you're doing for dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis. Next, estar, remember, is for where we are right now. Ser is for where you're from originally. And then here's a review of the continents for you. So let's talk about nationalities, nacionalidades. So the first one, what I'm wanting is Adriana is from Spain. She is Spanish. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to use the form of ser. It's correct for that person. We use ser to talk about nationalities, but for each person, it's going to be different. Then in the second blank, you're going to put their nationality. For example, how do you say that in Spanish that a girl is Spanish? Now we're talking about los lugares, places. So that's our location. When we're talking about locations, we use estar. So we know that we're going to be using estar which will be estoy, estás, está, estamos, or están, depending on who it is. So, for example, los pingüinos blank en Antártida porque viven allí. So the penguins are in Antarctica because they live there. Now, which form of estar are we going to use for penguins? Penguins are a they. The penguins live there, they live there. So which one of these means they live? You pick it and you write it in the blank. Next, new, nuevo. Hay tres tipos de verbos. There are 3 types of verbs. We've learned a whole lot more than what I gave you here, but just here's some examples. Cenar, practicar, cantar, bailar, cocinar, and mirar are all examples of los verbos de AR. They're all examples of AR verbs because they all end in AR. Next, we have comer, correr, leer, and ver, and you can tell by looking at the endings that these are los verbos de ER because they all end in ER. Last, we have vivir, asistir a, and escribir. You can tell by looking at the end of these that these verbs are all de ER. So there's 3 types of verbs in Spanish: AR verbs, ER verbs, IR verbs. The vast majority of verbs in Spanish, there's 12,000, more than 12,000 verbs in Spanish. The vast majority of them are AR verbs, and the smallest group is IR verbs. So we're going to learn the different endings depending on if it's an AR, ER, or IR verb. Okay. Type of there. So this means to form the verbs, we add. Okay. So for the yo form, the first thing we do with any of these verbs, step 1, is you take away the AR or the ER or the IR. Okay? Once you're left with that, then you decide what you're going to add. If I'm the one who's doing it, you add O. So you write O in the blank. La letra O. If you're the one who's doing it, para verbos de AR es AS. Para verbos de ER e IR es ES. So let's look at an example. An AR verb, we've taken away our AR. If we want to say I eat dinner, it's ceno. If we want to say you eat dinner, it's cenas. Same thing here. If we take this away and we say I live, it's vivo. You live, vives. All right. Él, ella, y usted. Para verbos de AR es A. Para verbos de ER e IR es E. E como elefante. Nosotros, if it's us who's doing it, we're living, we're eating breakfast, we're running. Para verbos de AR es amos. A, M, O, S. Para verbos de ER e IR, no, para verbos de ER es hemos, E-M-O-S. Para verbos de IR es imos, I-M-O-S. Okay. I'm not sure where I left off. I think it was the vosotros. If it's the nosotros, it's A-M-O-S, E-M-O-S, I-M-O-S. Okay, vosotros para AR es E con acento, I-S. Para verbos de ER es E con acento, I-S. Y para verbos de IR es I con acento S. Finalmente, ellos, ellas y ustedes, para verbos de AR es AN. Y para verbos de ER e IR es EN. So, for example, if you have correr or leer, take away the ER. And if you want to say that you do it, you add ES, lees. If you want to say that he does it, it's lee. If you want to say that we do it, it's leemos. And if you want to say that they do it, it's leen. So that is how the verbs think. Adios.